He was charming, intelligent, handsome, but behind the smile of Theodore Robert Bundy was one of the most disturbing minds in modern history. This is the story of Ted Bundy, from his troubled youth to his final words on death row. Ted Bundy was born on November 24th, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. His early life appeared ordinary, but it was built on secrets. He grew up believing his grandparents were his parents, and that his mother was his sister. This foundation of deception is often cited by experts as a critical factor in his psychological development. As a boy, Ted was quiet but observant. Those who knew him described a child who struggled to connect, one who seemed fascinated by control and appearances. Traits that would later define his horrific actions. He was known to be a loner, often isolated from his peers, retreating into a private world that few, if any, could penetrate. In 1967, Bundy enrolled at the University of Washington in Seattle, where he studied psychology. To his classmates and professors, he was bright, ambitious, and even charismatic. He projected an image of a promising young man, volunteering in politics and carefully building a calm, confident persona. He even worked at a crisis hotline, offering support to people in distress, chilling irony given the path he would later follow. But beneath that carefully constructed mask, Bundy was becoming increasingly isolated. Friends from that time later recalled a strange detachment, a sense of him being present but not truly there. It was as if he were living two entirely different lives, one for the public and another, darker one, in secret. In his early 20s, Bundy fell deeply in love with a woman from a wealthy, respected family. She was everything he aspired to be: sophisticated, educated, and well-connected. But when she ended the relationship, citing his lack of ambition and maturity, something inside him fractured. Those close to him say it was a profound turning point, a moment when deep-seated resentment replaced any semblance of love. He became obsessed with success, image, and, most importantly, control. He would later reinitiate a relationship with this same woman, only to abruptly discard her, a cruel act of revenge that foreshadowed the power dynamics he would later enact with his victims. Throughout the mid-1970s, a terrifying pattern emerged. Young women began to vanish from college towns across the Pacific Northwest and later in other states. The disappearances were baffling. The victims were often bright, attractive students with long, dark hair parted in the middle, eerily similar to the girlfriend who had once rejected him. Authorities were stumped, with no clear suspects and only fragmented clues left behind. A mysterious man on crutches or with his arm in a sling was sometimes reported, a deceptive lure to gain sympathy. All the while, Bundy maintained his public facade. He worked in Republican politics, was accepted into law school, and even joined search parties for the very victims he himself had targeted. This brazen participation in the searches highlighted his chilling ability to compartmentalize and perform normalcy while hiding his monstrous secrets. By 1975, Bundy's frequent travel and the geographical pattern of the crimes started drawing attention. His luck began to run out during a routine traffic stop in Utah. An alert officer noticed Bundy's suspicious behavior and searched his Volkswagen Beetle, discovering a ski mask, handcuffs, and other questionable items. Though he was initially released, this encounter put him firmly on law enforcement's radar. He quickly became a prime suspect in a string of disappearances across several states. As the net tightened, his charm morphed into cunning manipulation. Instead of cooperating, Bundy delved into legal strategy, studying every detail of his case. In a move of staggering arrogance, he chose to represent himself in court, using the platform to project confidence and steadfastly deny any guilt, all while enjoying the media spotlight. In a stunning turn of events, Bundy managed to escape from custody not once, but twice. His first escape in 1977 was almost cinematic. During a hearing in a courthouse library in Aspen, Colorado, he asked to use the law library for research. Left unshackled because he was representing himself, he simply jumped out of a second-story window and vanished into the mountains. He was recaptured after 6 days. But his second escape was even more audacious. About 6 months later, he sawed a hole in the ceiling of his cell in a Colorado county jail, crawled through the ductwork, and dropped into the apartment of the chief jailer, who was out for the evening. He changed into the jailer's clothes and walked out the front door. For weeks, he was a ghost, traveling across the country under false names, completely evading a massive manhunt. In February 1978, Bundy's violent spree finally came to a dramatic end in Pensacola, Florida. After a series of brutal attacks, a police officer stopped him for reckless driving. Bundy resisted, but was ultimately overpowered. It was until later that the officer realized he had caught one of the most wanted men in America. Bundy's trial became a national spectacle, the first in U.S. history to be fully televised. The nation watched, mesmerized and horrified as he defended himself. He smiled for the cameras, cross-examined witnesses, and tried to charm the public and the jury. But this time, the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable, including damning bite mark evidence. In 1979, the mask finally fell. Ted Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death. For nearly a decade, Bundy remained on death row at Florida State Prison. He exhausted every legal appeal, gave numerous interviews, and continued to study the law, all while maintaining his innocence. He became a subject of fascination for psychologists and journalists who tried to understand the mind behind the monster. But as his final execution date neared and all hope of appeal was lost, his story began to change. He started to confess, first in fragments, then in horrifying detail, to dozens of crimes across multiple states. Yet, his confessions lacked any genuine remorse. He spoke of his actions with a chilling detachment, describing them as the result of powerful impulses he claimed he could not fully understand or control, often blaming external forces like pornography for his descent into violence. On the morning of January 24th, 1989, Ted Bundy faced his final moments. His execution became a major media event. Outside the prison, large crowds gathered. The atmosphere was surreal. Some were there to silently seek closure for the victims, while others celebrated, chanting and holding signs. In his last statement, Bundy's words were surprisingly calm and simple. He said, "I'd like to give my love to my family and friends." And with that, one of America's most infamous and prolific serial killers was gone, executed in the electric chair. His death marked the end of a terrifying chapter in American crime history. But the questions and the horror he left behind would linger for decades. Decades later, Ted Bundy remains a deeply disturbing case study in duality, the shocking coexistence of outward charm and unimaginable cruelty. Psychologists and criminologists describe him as a textbook example of a psychopath, driven by extreme narcissism, a complete lack of empathy, and an insatiable need for power and control. His story serves as a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always wear a monstrous face. It can hide behind a winning smile, a confident demeanor, and a seemingly ordinary life. The case of Ted Bundy forces us to confront the terrifying possibility that even the most normal-seeming person may conceal an unimaginable darkness within. Thank you for watching this exploration into one of history's most complex criminal minds. If you found this documentary insightful, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more true crime stories and deep dives into criminal psychology. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.